Hello and welcome to the Informal Podcast. Today I am here with my co-host Chase. How's it going, Chase?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. And today we have a special guest here. It's only our second podcast in, but we have a special guest. Dad, show yourself.
Hola. Hola. How's it going, guys?
Going pretty good. So from what I can tell, you just made a podcast. You just started a podcast called Get In a Minute, and seems like it's doing pretty good. So, let me get out my questions here. The first question I wanted to ask you is, who are you exactly? And, what do you do?
Well, I'm your dad.
Yeah.
I'm your sibling. I work as a regional delivery driver for Prairie Farms, and that's about it.
All right. I got another question. What made you want to get into podcasting?
It's a really good question. I just felt like I had something to say. I spent a lot of time listening to motivational speakers, and I thought about doing the motivational speaker thing, but I wanted to get started on a smaller scale, and I'm a big believer in keeping it simple. So I think a lot of these guys who give these seminars and talks that take an hour to, I think whittle down into just a few minutes. I think people get the point after a small time, and when they leave something like that, they have 85% of what it is they're told. So I believe if you keep the content sharp to the point, it'll stick with people. So that's kind of what I had in mind.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. So, Chase, I'm pretty sure you have a question now.
I made some questions for you, and it's a bit more less about the podcast, So
Sure.
Start with something simple. What type of music did you grow up on?
I grew up on Pink Floyd, U2, Counting Crows, Dave Matthews Band, Tori Amos, Cranberries, and the Eagles, Eric Clapton. Those were my favorites.
That was wonderful.
You get with any of those?
I'm sorry, you cut out a lot for me, really.
I said, are you guys familiar with those guys?
I'm familiar
Pink
with
Floyd.
Pink Floyd. Yeah.
Great. I got Pink Floyd. Good. Okay.
Yeah, that's something.
I made a second question for you. So
thank you.
when I was listening to your second podcast, I noticed that it was around 4 minutes long. Is that going to be with every episode of the podcast, or are there going to be a few that are a lot longer than that?
Well, to start with, I'm going to keep it brief. What's funny is the podcast was called Get It in a Minute, but it took 4 minutes. So you figure that one out. Basically, I have kind of an intro, but the content itself is just about a minute. And then I have kind of an outro, and just try to leave you guys with something to think about. Like I said, I think it's going to start off right around 4 to 5 minutes per episode, and then see where it goes from there.
All right.
Sounds great.
So, here's one. What's your podcast about for anyone who doesn't know? And what is your podcast about, and will it ever change over time?
Oh, I think everything adapts over time. But basically, the podcast is just about tackling life's little issues. Just trying to, take down one little corner of life at a time.
Yeah. I really like what you are doing with the podcast. I already listened to an episode, and I think you just put everything so it's so simple and easy for anyone to listen to, and it's you can you can put it like a big subject in and just condense it down into a minute or just basically that time. And I think that's just really cool. And I'm sure lots of people like that. So, hi. Sorry about this one part. This part had silence, so I just had to cut my voice over it. So, when he gets back, he's going to be saying how he's talking about his podcast and what it means.
I kind of tend to understand some research, but I think I can take the major subject issue and just condense it into a format where everybody can understand really easily.
Mm-hmm. All right. So my thing cut out a little bit, but we basically heard everything, so that's good. My next question was, who is your dream guest to get on your podcast? And afterwards, do you want to hear mine?
Who is my dream guest to get on my podcast? Well, that's a very good question. I think maybe Gary Vaynerchuk or Tony Robbins, or maybe Joe Rogan. Seth Rogen would be cool too, but
Seth Rogen, like his laughing beat, like the whole podcast.
Those are dream guests. But yeah. I'll start with having you guys on. How about that?
Yeah, that
wonderful.
That works out perfect.
Sounds good. Good. Pay it forward.
I think I wanted to say this too. Do you know who Keanu Reeves is? Of course you do, right?
Of course I do.
Yeah, that's our dream guest. Okay. So so if Keanu ever contacts you, make sure that he contacts us first. Okay.
I'll try to give you the message.
All right. Perfect. Chase, I think this is your next question.
Yay! Okay, Mr. Blaskiewicz, I have a good one for you.
All right.
What do you do outside of podcasting?
What do I do outside of podcasting? I enjoy nothing more than hanging out with my family. That is my happy place. So if it's watching movies or just hanging out, doing things like this with the kids, that gives my life meaning.
Yeah.
That is wonderful to hear.
Hey, hanging out with you, Chase.
Yay, I'm one of your kids.
There you go.
There, you're right in the bunch.
Chase, I think you've been around as long as Red has, so I guess so.
Oh, no, longer. Since 2011. Yeah, 2 years longer.
There you go.
Oh, wow. That is insane. I can't even believe that.
Yeah, that's putting things into perspective.
Makes me feel old.
You're getting there.
Yeah, maybe.
Someday
you'll... let me ask you guys a question.
Okay.
What made you guys want to do a podcast together?
Wait, I want to answer this one. Okay. We have made multiple podcasts in the past, but due to irresponsible behavior of guests, we could not continue them.
Yeah. They just turned out really badly. Like our most recent one we tried probably 3 months ago, and we thought we were going to keep doing it on like a weekly basis, and it just never worked out.
It was Matthew.
Yeah, well, it was called the Blaskiewicz, which I told you about, and how it was a really bad name. But it's just
could you spell Blaskiewicz for me?
BWUH.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it. It's just really bad.
I can't find it in the dictionary. Hold on.
Oh yeah, no, it's not even in the dictionary.
Not a word. We were making. I was this kid at my school. He was called Mr. Bois, and I was like, "That's hilarious." I'm naming my podcast after that. Yeah. Jane didn't know it.
It was like we wanted to do something with our podcast, but we never got around to really doing anything. Which actually brings us to the ad of this video and or this podcast. I guess I will take it away. Perfect. Thank you, Pastel, for the ad. Now back onto the podcast. Chase, I think you have another question.
Yep. What are your goals for the future of your podcast?
I have short-term goals at this point. my short-term goal is to get to 5 podcasts. So if I can get enough content to go past 5, I think it's all downhill from there. I think it's easy. I think it's gravy once I get past that. The hard part about starting a train is getting it going. But once that train, pulls out of the station, it's hard to stop that. So you get the momentum going. My short-term goal is to just really have enough content to keep that website going, or not the website, but the podcast going, and building up a couple listeners and see where I go from there. Hopefully they share. Hopefully my content provides some value for people. That's basically all I can hope for. So if I get 5 listeners or 10 listeners, that's great. If I get 1 listener, that really sucks. But it is what it is. So, and then I'll be talking to myself. That's all right.
Yeah.
Listening to your first podcast, I think that it could help a lot of people.
I appreciate that. Hopefully it does. I mean, I have no background in psychiatry other than taking Psych 101 in college, or psychology or anything like that. But I think I got a good feel of people. And I've got a lot more experience at 42 than I had when I was 22. So I have far less experience than someone older than me. But I do think that experience plays a big part in growth. I don't believe it's always so much what you learn in school as it is what lessons you learn from life. And that's actually going to be the subject of my second podcast, is going to be basically learning from your failures. So,
all right.
No, I'm done.
So,
I'm done with the thought.
Yeah. So, basically, this isn't a question, but I thought it'd be fun for you to come on here and do this. Explain the stock market to someone who doesn't know what the stock market is or does.
Okay, let's take a complicated thing and make it simple. The stock market is a place that you can invest in a business. In the stock market, you own a percentage of whatever businesses that their stocks are traded publicly. Okay, so if you own one stock of Apple, you own a percentage, a very small percentage, but a percentage of Apple. So you're no longer just a consumer; you're actually an owner of that business. You've got part ownership. Okay, once people with a lot of money who have majority ownership, which means they own a ton of stock in the business. And they actually, once you get over 50%, if you own 50% or more, you have say in how that business actually operates. You can have, yay or nay, because you have the majority ownership of that business. So that's how I understand. And with investments, there's risks. So if the stock market performs poorly, you're going to lose money. If it performs well in general, you're going to make money. My advice like I said, I know very little about the specifics of the stock market. I've got very little experience in that. However, I've been reading up on it, and I do know you always want to diversify, which means you want to take a little bit and put it in a lot of businesses. And if you have a 401k or you have a retirement plan, your company has basically a huge nest egg of different businesses they already invest in. You're part of that. So you don't really necessarily have to worry about, oh, God, do I put this percentage into this company, this percentage into this? How much money do I want to invest in Apple or Yahoo? That's already put together in a big fund that the company you work for already has set aside. So they take a percentage of your check, put it towards that if you choose to. If you choose to have 10% of your check taken out and put into your retirement, that's what your retirement is. Normally, if it's like a 401k, it's a collection of it's a savings account. It's basically can go up or down based on how the market's doing.
Yeah. So
maybe I have a little bit of knowledge about that.
Yeah. So I wanted to know, how long did it take you to completely figure out all that stuff? Probably how long?
Well, how old am I now? 42.
So
42 years.
And that's all you've learned, basically?
42 years, and I still don't know crap. 42 years, and I still don't know really crap about the stock market. The thing about me is I've always wanted to learn just enough to be dangerous. Just enough. I want to learn just enough about everything. I'd rather, what was the phrase, be a jack of all trades. So I'd rather know a whole lot about a lot of stuff, or a little bit about a lot of stuff than a lot about one thing. So I think it makes you more well-rounded. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a specialist, you have to know a lot about that one thing. I wasn't born with that gift. And I'm fine with that. I've accepted that. I'm more of a creative person than I guess educational bound. I come from, as you know, Shane, we come from a family of educators. Papa was a doctor and a professor. Your Uncle Bob is a professor. Your grandma was a school teacher. So we come from a background of education. And I found out over the years that I was just more of a creative person than a student. So like I said, I like to just know a little bit about a lot of things. I think it makes my world at least a little more interesting to me.
Yeah. I wanted to say this about the whole stock market thing. I like how you can put all your experience from everything and just shorten it up to 5 minutes or whatever. Because just like you explain the stock market, that's basically all you know, right?
Right. I don't think it's necessary to know if you're not a trader, a day trader, or you're not on Wall Street. You don't really. You've got enough going on in your life as it is. You just want to know that the money that you saved, if you're going to invest it, you just want to know that over time it makes money. And the best thing you can do when it comes to the stock market is just invest it and leave it alone. It will build interest over time. The stock market goes through highs and lows, but on a trend, it goes, it's on an upward slope. So if you put money in, you may lose money here or there, and it could be a little bit, could be a lot that you lose, but the market always rebounds, it always corrects itself. So the best thing, what I do with my investments, with my savings, what I put aside, I forget about it. I don't even think about it. I might look at it once a year. I might look at it once every 2 years, 3 years. It doesn't really matter to me because I know it's there. I know it'll make money over time. And I know that because of interest and compound interest, it will make money without me having to do anything. So that's the beauty of the stock market. So that's all I think you really need to know.
Yeah, I think I think it just goes to show from here, we just learned all that stuff, but it just goes to show that you can shorten the stuff out and make it entertaining, at least make it
and
people.
I wish they taught this stuff. I wish they taught this stuff in elementary school and high school. I
was seeing stuff
in home ec. But this is stuff I learned more after school than I ever did when I was in school. So maybe it has to do with my nature of my job. I've got nothing to do all day while I'm delivering and driving in the truck. Then listen to podcasts and listen to financial podcasts, NPR. I just fill my head with a bunch of crap, and I remember about 5% of it. But that 5%, I'm spewing out to you guys, and hopefully you guys retain it. And if you find interest in it, maybe you'll follow up on it and do some more research for yourself. I'm not saying everything I'm saying to you is 100% accurate, but it's how I understand it.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you a question about social media, and how do you think are you going to advertise your podcast on social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, stuff like that?
Yes, I am. I am actually working on that right now. I'm late to the party, but okay. I'm showing up.
I'm glad to hear that. So,
let me repeat. One of my favorite podcasters and social media people is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a social media mogul. The guy knows a lot about business, a lot. Pretty much anything you want to know about business, the guy knows. And he will tell you that, the key is content. So the more you're out there, the more you're posting, you may not get results now, next week, next month, maybe not even next year. You may not get the following that you're looking for, but if you keep it up, consistency builds an audience. So, keep it up, guys. I listened to your first podcast. I thought it was funny. So I'm going to listen again every week, not just because you're my kid, but because it was funny. And it's cool. I mean, it's actually a cool concept. Two good friends talking on a regular basis. I mean, I think as long as it's humorous and it's funny, I think people will tune in.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say I don't know how but this is just a random thing. Somehow,
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you for a second? The name of your podcast, the Informal Podcast, fucking awesome. I love it. Pardon my French. It's
perfect.
It's a great name for a podcast. So,
all right, perfect.
Janine,
I'm sure Chase is
sorry.
happy to hear that because he was the one who made the name.
Yeah.
Great name. So. Better than blah, whatever it was.
Close enough.
I thought blah was a real.
Better than the blah. Better than the Blahcast.
I thought that would have been like the one that would have like stolen the audience from everyone else.
Yeah, it's just like a new podcast sweeping the nation, the Blahcast.
Dude, 4-letter words, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keyword blah.
Yeah.
How many people are searching blah?
Oh, lots of everyone who
Shane.
watches me, Chase, and everyone who watches Rabbids Invasion. Do you remember that show, Dad?
Yeah, barely.
It's the show with all the rabbits or whatever. Like they look like rabbits and they go around saying blah 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 and stuff. You remember that?
Now I understand why the show. Okay, I got you.
It went on for 4 seasons.
Holy crap! 4 seasons of blah.
Yeah, it was. It's amazing, right?
Real dedication.
The creator.
Goes to show there's an audience for everything.
Yeah, an audience for our podcast. Look at that.
Imagine how much money they lost investing all that time into a show that like 80 people watched. Wonderful.
No, actually, a lot of people watched it, and Ubisoft made a profit off of that because they had games out before the show. So.
Can you name a couple?
Rabbids Racers, I think it was.
And you know what's funny, guys, is the fact that you guys have a podcast now and you're actually talking about that. I mean, someone sparks, if it sparks someone's curiosity, well, hell, I might go search up Rabbids.
Oh my God, we'll make a whole episode that's just Blah Rabbids. That's the title, okay?
Oh my
God. I
God.
recommend it, but whatever.
So, I wanted to say this because this happened today, and Chase knows this. I don't know how, but this guy who's an actor for a Netflix show called The Circle, I've never heard of it, but he saw my Instagram story. He physically looked at my Instagram story, and I don't know why. I just I don't know.
You have no idea how much Shane was freaking out.
I was actually pretty excited.
He was screaming.
All I really wanted to figure out is if he voted yes or no on my story on Instagram that said hamburger.
Are you asking me?
Oh, no. Oh, do you want me to ask? Dad, hamburger, yes or no?
Hamburgers are cool.
Yeah, so is that a yes?
Sure, that's a yes.
There we go. So you just went against Matthew's thing. Thank you. That we really appreciate that.
Also, you're being forced to donate $10 since you said yes.
Yep.
Hey guys, so, I got a question for you guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you guys want to be when you grow up?
Well, that's a good question because
let's start with Chase.
Happy.
You just want to be happy? That is a damn good answer,
That's
believe it or not. That is a damn good answer. Be happy in what you do. Shane, I know you want to be a fire truck.
I think about it from time to time, but I think that I think I'd also agree with what Chase said, happy. But if we're talking also about occupation, I think it'd be cool to work at somewhere like a virtual reality place or Tesla, something like that. Something that specializes in high-tech equipment.
Neat. Burrito. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just curious what you guys wanted to do.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a funny question, too. Because, you guys probably know, it's going to change 100 times between now and the time you're my age. You know what you
I
want
have
to
a
do.
follow-up question. What do you want
Oh.
to be when you're older?
What do I want to be when I'm older? Honestly, I think you had the best answer, Chase. I think I just want to be happy. I'd rather be happy. Here's another thing. I'd rather be happy with no money than be rich and be unhappy. So I think if I'm doing what I'm doing now in 30 years, I'd consider it. I'd consider it a win. I'd put it in the win. The win column.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I think that's just I get people asking me that a lot about what I want to be when I grow up, but like it's kind of embarrassing when people ask you that and you just don't know, and it kind of feels like you have to know. Do you think that's true? That you have to know, or what?
How old
that
are
time?
you, Shane?
14.
How old are you?
Going on 15.
14 years old. You're 15 years old. Dude, you have 85 years or more left to live. You're fucking 14. Okay? You're a baby. You got the whole world, all the time in the world to grow up and figure out what you want to do. Okay? I mean, it was funny. I actually went into an interview one time with an insurance agent, sat down and talked to him for 15 minutes. He saw my resume that had carpenter, mobile DJ. Let me see. I hadn't done truck driving yet. I worked in a warehouse. I'd owned my own business. And he looked at me and he said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And my first response was, "F you, dude." That was my first thought, was F you. How dare you ask me that? But really, it was funny because I didn't know. At that point, I was 27, 28 years old. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I mean, I don't think there's any one particular profession that would make me happier over another. The way I say it, is a job is a job. A lot of times people jump into a job thinking it's their dream job, only to find out, oh, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. Me, I like my job. I like it. I don't love it. I mean, I don't love leaving the family twice a week. I don't love sleeping in a truck, twice a week. But I have to take the good with the bad, and kind of focus on the good parts about the job. The job is repetitive. I don't have to think too much about it. I'm just bringing things from one point to another, bringing it in the store. I get to meet people. I get to change the scenery on a weekly basis. And with my ADHD, that's good for me. That's kind of therapy for me. I'm not doing, yes, I'm repeating the same task over and over again, but I'm doing something a little bit different every day. And then I get to, like I said, listen to my music or my podcast or do whatever I want. If I don't feel like talking to people, I put my earbuds in and pretend I'm listening to music. So
that's just the way to do it.
It works for me. Yeah, and then they think you're listening to something, and when they talk to you, you're like, you shake your head like, what? I'm sorry, what? Hold on, let me turn this off. I spend most of my day in my head thinking. So if that's not apparent, I don't know what is.
Well, I'm really glad and happy that you can now use this podcast as a way to think and a way to like pass the time and just do what you want to do.
I think the fact that you guys
creative
are
control
doing it your own. Yeah, sure. I was just saying that the fact that you guys are doing your own podcast now is really good, because that in itself is a resume builder. I mean, come on, you're getting experience with social media, different platforms, learning how to use these different platforms. These are the skills that are going to be useful in the future. Okay. I think employers these days look more at your skills than they do your grades. So, I know that if I was hiring somebody, and if I got to the size where I needed people working for me, I'd want to know that they know what they're doing. I don't care if they got a fucking B in biology. We're not talking about plants. We're not talking about plants or animals or anything in this format, in this context. I want to know that they have experience doing what I need them to do, and I want to know that they're decent people. So,
yeah, I think that's
this is good for you guys.
Way to put it.
This is really. I think this is
thank
you. For you guys, and you may think right now.
I am. This is just something fun to do, because like on our other one, we said this in the first episode, but I'll say it again. for our first one, we made one episode, and we were planning to keep doing it. And
We got bored.
I made a backup episode just in case we missed a week or so, and we missed the following week. That was supposed to be our second episode, so I had to post a backup episode. And then after that, we just never made it.
Don't sweat it, man. It's the informal podcast. Who gives a crap? Don't sweat it. It's all good.
If we miss a week, we'll say it on our Instagram at the Informal Podcast.
There you
So
go.
I think this is like kind of the ending point. Chase, do you have anything else you want to ask?
I think that I have asked everything that I needed to this episode.
Good questions, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the
thanks.
Informal Podcast.
Thanks
If
for
you guys
having
want
me.
to, if anyone wants to check out my dad's podcast, it's called Get It in a Minute. You can listen to it on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm sure it's everywhere. Just wanted to say thank you for listening, and make sure to use Anchor for all things podcast related. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much. Here we go. Thank you. Yay. We did it.
Have a good day, guys.